No one ever noticed her. She was just the quiet janitor who mopped the floors and emptied the trash. But one morning, the general walked past his entire unit and handed her a rifle. What happened next stunned every soldier on base and revealed a secret that would change their respect forever. NNTHE barracks were always alive with noise. Boots pounding the floor, officers barking orders, the clatter of weapons being cleaned, and the constant hum of young men and women talking, laughing, or complaining about their next drill. Yet in the middle of all that chaos, there was one figure who seemed invisible to everyone around her. She was the janitor. Every morning before dawn, she arrived quietly, pushing her cart full of cleaning supplies. Her uniform was plain, her hair tied back in a neat bun, her face calm and expressionless. She mopped the floors, scrubbed the windows, wiped the tables in the mess hall, and carried bags of trash out to the bins. She moved like a shadow through the corridors, always present, but never noticed. Soldiers passed her dozens of times a day but rarely made eye contact. To them, she was simply part of the background, like the walls or the floors she cleaned. NNBUT. While no one paid attention to her, she paid attention to everything. She knew which recruits were homesick, just by the way they stared at their letters. She knew who was secretly afraid of the firing range, who had a crush on whom, and who had been up too late playing cards. She didn't gossip, she didn't interfere. But she saw it all, quietly storing it away. Some of the older soldiers whispered rumors when they were bored. Some said she was just an old woman working for a paycheck, nothing more. Others wondered if she had once been a soldier herself, perhaps someone who had seen terrible things and now just wanted to live a quiet life. But no one ever asked, and she never volunteered a single piece of her past. Then came the morning that changed everything. NNTHE's sun had barely risen when the sound of boots echoed loudly down the hallway. The general was coming. Everyone knew it by the sudden rush of soldiers standing straighter, scrambling into formation. He was a man of few words but great presence. When he entered a room, people paid attention. NNTHE janitor was in the main hall, wringing out her mop, when she heard the commotion. She stepped aside as the soldiers lined up, expecting to go unnoticed as always. But this time, the general did something none of them could have predicted. NNHE walked straight past the line of soldiers and stopped in front of her. NNTHE entire room froze. The janitor stood there, mop in hand, staring up at the general. He said nothing at first, just studied her face. Then, to everyone's shock, he reached for the rifle slung across his shoulder and held it out to her. "Okay, take it," he said. On murmur went through the soldiers. The janitor hesitated, confused. Was this some kind of mistake? But something in the general's expression told her it wasn't. Slowly, she set the mop aside and took the rifle in her hands. The weight was familiar, the balance natural. Without a word, she checked the safety, inspected the magazine, and took a step back to assume a firing stance. The soldiers stared in disbelief. NNTHE general pointed to a target set up across the training yard. "Show them," he said. NNSIN one smooth, practiced motion. She raised the rifle, breathed in deeply, and fired. NNTHE shot rang out, echoing off the barracks walls. The bullet struck the very center of the target. NNTHE recruits gasped. Some even whispered aloud. But the janitor wasn't finished. She adjusted her stance, aimed at the next target, and fired again. Bullseye. And again. And again. Every single shot struck home with deadly precision. When the last shell casing hit the ground, the silence that followed was absolute. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Then the general smiled. "Listen well," he said, his voice carrying across the yard. "This woman is not just your janitor. She is a veteran of 3 campaigns, a decorated sharpshooter, and one of the finest soldiers I have ever had the honor of commanding. Today, she will be your instructor. You will listen to her as you would to me." NNTHE soldiers' eyes were wide, their respect immediate. From that day forward, everything changed. The janitor was no longer invisible. She became a figure of admiration, almost of awe. Soldiers began greeting her with a respectful nod or even a salute. They asked her questions, sought her advice, and when she spoke, they listened. In the mornings, she still cleaned. That was her job, and she performed it with the same quiet diligence as always. But in the afternoons, she became their teacher. She showed the recruits how to hold their rifles, how to control their breathing, how to trust their instincts. Her training sessions were tough but fair, and she never raised her voice. She didn't need to. Her calm authority made everyone want to impress her, and over time, she grew close to some of them. One young recruit in particular, barely 19, struggled with his shooting accuracy. He grew frustrated, even considered quitting. But she spent extra hours with him, showing him how to relax, how to stop fighting the rifle, and work with it instead. When he finally hit the bullseye for the first time, she smiled. A rare, genuine smile that lit up her whole face. The other soldiers cheered, and the recruit never forgot that moment. One evening, after a long day of drills, a curious soldier finally asked the question everyone had been wondering. "Mom, why are you here? Why clean floors when you could be anywhere else, living a peaceful life?" NNTHE janitor looked at him for a long time before answering. "Because I know what war takes from people," she said softly, "and I know that if I can teach even one of you how to survive it, how to come home alive, then it's worth every floor I scrub." NHER words spread quickly through the barracks. They inspired the soldiers to work harder, to take their training more seriously. She became more than a teacher. She became a symbol of resilience and sacrifice. Months passed. The barracks felt different now. The recruits trained with renewed purpose, knowing that the quiet woman who once cleaned their hallways was a living example of what they could become. Even the officers noticed the change. Then came the day of the big field exercise, a simulation meant to test the recruits under realistic conditions. The janitor accompanied them as an observer, but when a sudden equipment malfunction caused chaos during the exercise, it was she who stepped in, calming the recruits and leading them to safety with the steady hand of someone who had seen real battle. Her quick thinking turned what could have been a disaster into a valuable lesson in teamwork and composure. And after that, her legend only grew. New recruits arrived and heard the story of the janitor, who could outshoot anyone on the base, the woman who had saved her unit during training, and taught them what true discipline meant. Her story was told around campfires, in the mess hall, and even beyond the barracks, becoming almost a myth. NNBY the time she eventually left the barracks, her impact was undeniable. The soldiers she had trained went on to excel in their careers, carrying with them not just the skills she taught, but the values she instilled: humility, courage, patience, and respect. Because once upon a time, no one paid attention to the janitor. But the day the general handed her a rifle, everything changed. And from that day on, no one ever looked at her, or at their own duty, the same way again.